JSN's playing as well as any wide receiver in the league, and Sam is, I mean, he's got no fear.
Big guys running. Did you see the play Leonard Williams made on the sideline near the end of that game on Monday night? Yeah. Oh, my God.
He's been doing it, though. He's been chasing like that the whole year. Mm-hmm. I felt like I didn't get a chance to listen to the entire broadcast. I watched the game on tape. I saw some of the broadcasts, but I did hear they gave him some love.
Oh, a lot
that I felt like hasn't really been there. You know, his name hasn't been mentioned as much as I thought it should be, but it felt like during the broadcast they loved him up.
Can you slow your roll? Okay, he was the 11th graded Seahawk according to PFF Monday night defensively. He had a 61 grade. Can you stop throwing your flowers at Leonard? Wow. He's 61 grade DJ. What do you got to say about that?
I love PFF for all the information they provide. I don't know anyone who really looks at the grades. It's just, I feel like they probably feel like they have to do that, but it's not really a valuable thing. So that's a great example. That would be in the trial. That would be probably exhibit, maybe not A, but it would definitely be, B, C, or D.
All right. So as much as we've spent, I think every time you've come on here, we've talked about Leonard Williams, and for good reason. He's leading the way. But we have not talked nearly as much about the veteran player. We've talked about Byron Murphy a little bit. What about the other veteran player on this defensive line who we should be incredibly familiar with? We've been watching him play for what feels like forever, and that's Jarran Reed. He is such a, I don't know what the right, I mean, just hit the number, let's just say complete defensive tackle. I remember years ago, DJ, you're going to laugh at this because I was wrong, but I remember, what did I say, Brock, that Jarran Reed at the time I thought was a more complete defensive tackle than Aaron Donald. Now, I was wrong, and Donald was such a good pass rusher that ultimately it didn't matter. But the idea behind it was this guy stops the run and gets after the passer in a way that not everyone in the NFL does, and I can't believe he's still doing it all these years later.
It's funny because I just pulled up his numbers because it's one of those things where I kind of look at him as you refer to him as like a glue guy, where you've got your young, exciting players, you've got your star players, and then the teams are kind of held together by those guys in the middle. He doesn't have a ton of production, but he's someone when you watch him, I'd keep track of the positive plays and the negative plays when you're going through games and, just kind of things that jump out at you. He's just like the steady Eddie, and that kind of reflects itself a little bit in the stat sheet where all he does is stack blocks. He's able to free up his linebackers to go make plays. He can get on the other side of the line of scrimmage, kind of force things to other guys. He's not a paper player. It doesn't necessarily always look great on paper, but man, he's just a good, solid player.
Well, the other conversation each and every week, and it's obvious, is the quarterback. And last week, you did a little twist on Sir Mix-a-Lot's song about butts, and you said your new song was No Butts. When it came to Sammy, still no butts?
Look, I'm sure there's a couple plays he'd like to have back in that one. Just gripping the ball a little tighter in the end zone. We'll start there. Yeah. Stingley made a nice play on the pick. I mean, he undercut it, kind of almost baited him a little bit on that. On the pick, but he also I could pull out 5 throws as you could from that game. They were just incredible, high conviction, big time throws. So no, I'm not coming off of him at all from that. That's a miracle though. They turned over 4 times and still won the ball game. So you don't want to make a living doing that.
You know what's remarkable about it? And I was actually we chatted about it with Mike on Tuesday, but it hits me and strikes me right now, a couple days later, DJ, and that is Sam's ability to go back to your connective tissue, to build that in a season like he did in Minnesota last year, right? With both Addison and obviously one of the game's best, Jefferson, and receiver, and to do this in 7 months with JSN. I mean, those throws he's making, those 4 or 5 throws that you're talking about with conviction, he's throwing them open. He's throwing them in the red zone into as tight a window as you're ever going to see. I mean, do you put that on JSN? Do you put that on Sam? Do you put it on both as far as building a connection through 7 months? It looks like they've played together for years.
I don't see how you could split the baby. I mean, I think you look at it and it's like I give 100% of the credit to Sam for how he's playing. I give 100% of the credit to JSN. I don't know how you could say it's more this person or the other person. That's it's just been impressive. And when you've got those. We call it what you call them, Brock, kind of those over-under throws where you've got an underneath defender and an over-the-top defender. You got to get it up and down. Like that is an incredibly difficult throw. And it's also understanding the spacing from the receiver standpoint of where he needs to be So you give that throw a chance. And there's 2 or 3 of those every single game that you watch of Seattle this year. And so, yeah, JSN's playing as well as any wide receiver in the league. And Sam is, I mean, he's got no fear. I mean, he's just playing with a lot of confidence and aggressiveness. I'd much rather do that. This is the extreme, right? But if you look at, Fields and then to some degree, the way that Hurts has played, where there's just, I'm not going to turn it over. I'm not going to turn it over. I'm not going to turn it over. Like, that's hard to put up points and be an explosive offense unless you've got a little bit of, not reckless, but aggressive, like selectively aggressive would be the term I would use.
He's reminding me, I didn't ever think I would ever say this, but having played with Marvin Harrison for a couple years, DJ, and we use the Amon-Ra St. Brown because the body type is more similar there. He's thicker legged and everything else. And he's probably not as fast on a 40-yard metric as Marvin was, but their feet never leave the ground. Their change of direction at full speed. And then, I remember my first minicamp with Marvin, and I threw a comeback, and I was like, oh crap, little guy that's gonna be 5 feet over his head. And then Gumby, he goes up what? Yeah. How did he just catch that and put his feet down? Man, JSN is starting to change the narrative, I think, of the upside, for me at least. I don't know if he has for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's living on the outside, winning on the outside, and there's not a route that he can't run. We always knew he was willing to do the work in the middle of the field and running through balls, staying grounded through the catch, all that stuff. And now you're watching him, just weave guys, getting shoulders turned, snapping off routes on the outside, creating a ridiculous amount of separation. I haven't looked at the PFF numbers there. That would be a more meaningful stat, but he was
90.1. He was the highest grade.
Yeah,
you gotta really check that out.
But even just the stats on creating separation when you're outside, yeah. I mean, I gotta believe he's doing that as well as anybody in the league right now.
You know who I wish was a Seahawk?
Who's that?
Cam Scatabo.
He's fun.
He's really fun. He's exactly what this team could use. If you added that level of personality and running a bit and physicality, all of it, it would be such a great fit with this team and everything else that they're doing. I went back and was just looking at the draft last night because I was like, man, why isn't this guy a Seahawk? We talked about him. He'd be awesome. It'd be really fun. He was drafted at the beginning of the 4th round, as you know. So the last pick that the Seahawks made before that was Jalen Milroe. As you look at it today, would the Seahawks have been better off drafting? And I've been a big Milroe. I love the pick. I'm not crushing them for it. But would they be better off today having drafted Scatabo than Milroe?
I mean, I think you could look at where they were in that position room, and they felt pretty good about those 2 guys. So, I mean, that kind of comes back to best player available, highest rated. I'd have to go back and see how different I had them stacked up. But that would not have stood out to me at the time, and I think Scadabo's been given tremendous opportunity there that I don't know if he would get all those touches and carries with the backfield that are in Seattle right now. So I would say that was not a way I would go at this point in time. I'm gonna let that play out a little bit, but Scadabo is fun. He's kind of, to me, reminds me of somehow Mike Allstott and Rob Gronkowski had a baby. It would be just like a little Scadabo running around there like a Tasmanian devil.
The personality element of it, though, and just what he seems to do for the rest of the team around him, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's like caveman.
We are 12 days away, I believe, from the NFL trade deadline. It's not like the baseball trade deadline that our Mariners benefited a whole lot. Wouldn't have been where they were without Naylor and Suarez in particular. 12 days to the NFL trade deadline. Do you expect a bunch of action and significant moves?
I think so. I think there's some teams that have already signaled by some moves that they're willing to be active, and I don't know, Cleveland doing what they did with Flacco, and you see some of these other trades. I think there might be some, vet for vet stuff too. I can help you, you can help me type things. But this is a totally different era of GM. There's just a lot more willing and a lot more active. Looking at the big picture, I think one of the things that's taken place over the last 5 years that I think has changed and made this way more fun and way more active is that teams have really got into pick swaps. So the whole thing is like, well, I want a player, but I don't want to lose a pick. So now you can justify it by saying, well, maybe I'm sending out a 4, but I'm getting a 6 back. At least I still have my same allotment of draft picks, even though they might be a little bit later on in the draft. But that has made it a lot easier for these moves to get made instead of just player for pick.
All right, so how do you handle it if you're the Seahawks and your secondary is about to get a whole lot healthier. You're going to get Spoon back. You're going to get Love back. You really like what you've gotten so far from the rookie, Eamon Worry. I mean, we could spend a whole while talking about him. He was awesome the last couple of weeks. You got Woolen, you got Job. Like, how does all of that shake out? And specifically, what do you do with Reek? Do you try to trade him at the deadline, or do you say, hey, depth is more important. I want him and Job just in case there's another injury?
I've seen his name bandied about a bunch. People have talked about, teams are in the corner market that he could be had. I always go back to conversations at cut down day every single year around the league. If you talk to every GM, they'll tell you the same thing. We just need one more tackle and one more corner. If we could just find a tackle and a corner, and there's going to be attrition. So to me, if I have any depth on the offensive line or in the secondary, I don't know that I'm willing to deal from that at this point in time. If you got a team that's capable of going on a run, it's, I get where he is, and you got guys coming back, and he hasn't been what you hoped he would be, but I don't know. What are you going to get? You're going to get a 5th or 6th round pick.
What if you could get a guard? What if you could get a starting guard?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who in the league is going to be willing to do that. That's, if there's a starting caliber guard out there, yeah, sure, why not? But I don't know that he's gonna command that type of return.
Yeah, I guess that becomes the challenge, DJ, as well, and it is a baseball perspective. Like, okay, is he more valuable for us the rest of this season? Because they're not going to re-sign him. I don't think there's any world where Rick Woolen is going to be re-signed as a Seattle Seahawk. It's going to be Cross, it's going to be JSN, it's going to be others you're going to take care of before him. And I don't think he's shown the maturity or the kind of guy, care factor that they want. So if there's an opportunity like baseball, he's not coming back here, can we trade him as a rental? But to your point, probably not enough trade value back compared to the depth that you have.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, but you find a team out there that suffers a couple injuries this week and you get desperate, and then maybe that changes the math a little bit. But, as it stands right now, I don't know that you're getting much more than that.
Okay, bigger picture. You watch the tape of these Seahawks as you do each and every week on the Daniel Jeremiah Show, presented by my buddy at Marquee Data. So you do it every week. Anybody else pop, other than the just characters that we know? Anything stand out to you? Like, ooh, this guy's kind of intriguing. Because I had an NFL guy text me about the Seahawks, and I'm curious if your eye ever got to this guy.
Well, I'm still an Ernest Jones fan, so watching him buzz around that would be
pick
one
he
that
made.
Yeah, it was pretty sick.
That was a pretty athletic play.
I'm trying to think. I'm going through looking at the roster and seeing what other names pop.
Oh, I need your binder, DJ. I need your binder. Do you have your binders handy?
No, I packed up everything because I'm going up to LA. I'm doing this, knocking out a podcast, and I got to do this Thursday night game. So
I don't have your binders.
It's
Brock just wants to ask you about someone named Drake Thomas, because most people don't know who he is. Okay, and Brock just figured out his first name because he kept calling.
No, I knew Drake, but I was like Drake Rogers, Drake Smith, Drake what?
Why am I blanking on him? Give me, what are the...
Yeah, so, and then I'm like, well, maybe he's Zach Thomas's little cousin. He talked about the
42,
birth child.
42.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bro. He was everywhere.
Did I do him?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see. I have my Excel sheet here. What
you
year?
go.
This year?
Ooh, no. He's been a couple years. I believe he was out of NC State. Unbelievably productive. He has like 29-inch arms. He's got like, just really short Brock Purdy Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. And so I think the length
he was 23. He was a college free agent in 23. He does not ring a bell. I'm going to look real quick. I don't think that I've
He strikes me as, and Brock, maybe I'm wrong, as one of these sort of modern linebackers that might have been a safety 10 years ago, and now he's a linebacker, because that's what they're looking for, is more of that run around, get into the secondary kind of linebacker. But what's been great is he does tackle pretty darn well for that size. I mean, he's able to stick his nose in there and actually tackles pretty well.
And reading between the lines, by the way, and this was the one cool little nugget that Coach McDonald gave us on Tuesday talking about him, because he was a lot of the talk, and the numbers popped, and he played, and he and Tyrese Knight had been splitting, and not on Monday night. Like, it was his job. And McDonald, if you listen to him, DJ, basically said the scouts just pounded the table for this guy. He can play. Don't look at the height. Don't look at the length. He can play. He can hit. He can get off blocks. He's not – and sure enough, man, he was right there with EJ at the second level, just a game changer on Monday night.
Yeah, I did not. Unfortunately, I went back through my sequence list from that year. So,
be better, DJ.
He didn't make the 400. He didn't get picked. Come on.
What does that have to say? Somebody that doesn't make the top 400 could start a Monday Night Football game. Like, honestly, like that's
it happens every week. It happens every week.
Why?
because guys have fallen through the cracks, and I'm going off of what teams have told me. So in terms of who to watch, so when when names don't come across my desk of you need to watch this guy because you could talk about him when he gets picked, when everybody assumes they're going to be undrafted. Yep. That's how that happens, and it's exactly the reason why you mentioned it. There's two types of undrafted players that hit. You get the unbelievable, height, weight, speed, athleticism with no production. So you're betting on the athlete who has no football, history, or you get the incredible football player with none of the height, weight, speed, athleticism. And it's a debate that rages in the draft room every year when you get to the 6th or 7th round. And I've been on teams that have believed in one thing, and I've been on teams that have believed the other. We're taking all traits and we'll coach him up into a football player, or let's just take a football player. He'll find a way to make our team.
Which do you prefer?
And help us out. It depends by the position. If I'm taking corners, I'm always going to bet on the traits and just say, if you're 4.65, that's going to be tough for you to hide that person, and his deficiencies are going to be exposed. If you're an interior offensive lineman with little T-Rex arms, but you're a really good player, they have a chance. If you're an inside linebacker, same thing we're talking about here, you've got a chance. But usually edge rushers, if you got an edge rusher who's got 15 sacks at Montana State, but he's got a slow get off. He's got a 28-inch vertical like that. Congratulations on the Big Sky accolades, but that's not for me. DJ. I'm going to go ahead and go with the traits.
That's hilarious. So corner, you said you're okay. Is corner a traits thing, or wasn't
traits?
Corner's traits for me.
You wouldn't like Josh Jobe then. He is not a traits guy, but man, he is a feisty sucker. He gets out there and battles, and the hands maybe aren't ideal, but he is a feisty dude, and I relate to that a little bit.
Though I think he ran well.
Right. He did run good.
Hey, we got to go. You got to go as well. Enjoy the podcast. Enjoy the Thursday night game. We'll talk to you next week.